things I enjoy the most is like we're very lucky with drifting that we've built a lot of friendships and things like that around it. You know, we've watched the culture grow around us, around the part shop, that kind of stuff. So I think when I'm in my element, it's, you know, when all the cars are running, everybody's driving, the family, friends together, everybody's sort of enjoying the sport and things like that. Yeah, I'd say for the brand, to be helping people at the track while we're also driving, it's something we're very lucky to do. The earliest memory I have is definitely it's one of my earliest memories in general, not just of cars. Basically, my father's an engineer, my uncle was the mechanic. Yeah, he was working on a car in the garage, I think of my father's house. I was fascinated of what they were doing. I wandered into the garage and I actually ended up underneath the car because it was on jack stands. They eventually found me in the garage. And you know, my mom freaked out a little bit. My uncle kind of told her, just relax, let him, you know, see what's going on. And in that moment, my uncle decided to like let me try and help. So he kind of, you know, I remember that very clearly. He showed me how to like put the wheel spanner on and tighten like wheel bolts and stuff like that. And then basically at the end of it, I only did one. And at the end of it, he gave me like, I think it was a £5 at the time or something, and I got very excited and I went to go show my granny that, you know, it was literally the first job I ever did and got paid for, essentially. So yeah, that's the earliest memory I have of cars, and that's quite a fun memory. So during high school, basically a lot of my friends at the time had off-road bikes, and we had one particular friend that his dad was also into cars and stuff, so they had some off-road vehicles and things. So I used to spend a lot of time with them. Because we didn't really have space or budget to do anything on our own in terms at that time. So I used to spend a lot of time with friends working on their cars, trying to, you know, gain knowledge, doing research, you know, all while still in school, doing normal high school stuff. So basically, after high school, I approached a few manufacturers. I did some research. BMW at the time was the best apprenticeship because they did local training, so your government gazetted training, and then they did their own German training as well. So you actually did 2 sets of testing, 2 sets of training in one go. And yeah, managed to get into BMW. Was very lucky, basically straight out of high school. But you know, I think what worked in my favor is over weekends I used to help teams at Kalani wherever I could. Anybody needed a hand, I used to be there. So that helped me get into BMW, and obviously just working on my own, you know, projects and stuff like that. And yeah, very lucky to get an apprenticeship. I did about 5 years at BMW and I qualified through them. And yeah, all the while doing the apprenticeship, we used to do private jobs. Obviously we weren't allowed to work on BMWs, you know, as per the contract, but there was nothing that said we couldn't work on other brands, because obviously they've got no jurisdiction on any other brand. So yeah, basically that rolled into the private work, getting busier and busier. I mean, I used to work, you know, 8 till 5, come home, carry on working till 9, 10 at night, you know, on private vehicles. Because obviously apprenticeship salary is not great. You know, it takes a long time to get to a mechanic's level. But yeah, very fortunate that I could get the apprenticeship, got the training. Eventually when I qualified, I had a very good customer with his name was Leon. He had a fleet of vehicles that were basically refrigerated buckies. He had an issue with his business at the time as well that wasn't running so well because he had to be out of the country for some time. So when he returned, he basically had me doing so much work that eventually he said, look, why don't you just open your own shop? Like, at the time, he was one of my biggest cheerleaders in a sense of saying, you know, you should do this because you have the aptitude for it. And that was big for me coming from another business owner. And yeah, he's also one of his consulting businesses that he goes into a business, he rebuilds the business, fixes it, and hands it back to the owner, you know, making profit essentially. So to have somebody like that behind me, it was like, okay, this is a good opportunity. So we discussed it for a while. I have a very good friend of mine from high school. His name is Carl. He's an accountant, or chartered accountant now. Very clued up with finances, things like that. So we spent 2 weeks basically going through all pros and cons, you know, all scenarios, how much capital would we need to start, you know, on a basic level, that kind of thing. How much Dion was prepared to keep in. He also didn't want to waste his time or money, that was a big thing. Um, and yeah, kind of all the stars aligned. I discussed it with my partner Kirsten, who's also sacrificed quite a bit for me to do this. And she said, look, you know, if there's any time to do it, it's now. And we made the choice and we went for it. So at the end of the day, sometimes you just have to decide. At the time also, I had finished my apprenticeship. I was doing a year at Club Sport, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well. Divan is the boss there. They taught me a lot, Divan and Morne, especially about racing and the racing the culture here and all that kind of thing. And yeah, so I was busy with a year stint with them because I wanted to give myself at least a year in racing. And then the opportunity came to start the business, and yeah, I couldn't say no. And Divan was lucky enough, I mean, he was nice enough to say, you know, he had to go through that as well, and he was sad to let me go, but impressed that I was going to do it and wished me well. And yeah, I was lucky enough to go along. So that's how the business essentially started. Working with Club Sport, I gave myself a year when I left BMW to do racing and, you know, try and get into it or however I could just to experience it. So whatever happened after that year, you know, okay, I'll reset my life, or do whatever I have to do. But yeah, I wanted to have a year, whether it was locally or abroad, to be in racing, be immersed in it. Again, sacrifice from my partner Kirsten to allow me to do that, because it took a lot of time away from us. But yeah, it was kind of a chasing the dream thing at the time. And being a part of the team was as close as I could get to driving a car. So that to me was worth it. You know, it was a really good experience. Club Sport, yeah, a bit of a different culture. You know, with the racing, things are more strict, things are more sort of to a much higher standard. Road cars and things, obviously, you know, at BMW they had high standards in terms of not making mistakes, having the cars right, having very strict quality control, that kind of stuff. But obviously, when I went to Club Sport, it was now, the bar was here, it's now double the height. So yeah, Divan runs a tight ship there, and they do very well. Yeah, in my time, if I think back, there has been a few very special projects that have stood out. For example, I think in high school, when I was helping at Harp, they had one of the Mazda Lamar rotary cars there that I think it was one of the practice cars that they were rebuilding, which is a very special car in the world in general. I mean, there was only, I think it's a 767, so there's maybe a handful of those cars that actually exist. So to just be around something like that and being that young, appreciating the gravity of the car and what it's, you know, done and achieved and engineering, that was a very special moment. At BMW, just, you know, always working on the latest generation stuff, that was always a special thing to do, because, you know, you get a brand new car. It's like, okay, here, go test it, make sure everything's fine, you know. That was special. Obviously, we're running Fury, we've done a lot of our own projects involved. Each one of them has been special. So yeah, this is a fairly special car in terms of its year model and spec. I think it's a 1982 GT Junior. It's supposed to be a 1300. No, it's had two owners. The guy that had it before me, he had it for 20 years, parked it for 15 years. And last started it 5 years ago. This is supposed to be like a father-son project, but as an investment, we're probably just going to restore the car, keep it for a while, and then put it up for sale. And you know, at some point, if someone buys it, cool. If not, then we enjoy the car until that happens. Yeah. So this is the parts side of the business. This is Donnie's kingdom here, so to speak. This basically started at our old shop. It was one little desk like that, with one little shelf, and we had like the parts that we brought in for our own cars. We just brought in like 5 of each. It was like a couple of steering wheels, baskets, you know, and some suspension stuff, and it's grown into this crazy amount of things. But basically, yeah, I mean, we have like intake manifolds, exhaust manifolds, turbos. We've started branding our own parts now. So basically, in this country, there's a big argument between people, especially with like real parts, copied fake parts, so to speak, and unbranded parts. Nobody has an issue with real parts or unbranded parts. The problem comes in when you have like fake parts and replica parts. It's not really an issue if the brand is not doesn't have like a foothold in the country type of thing. But the issue is obviously in, you know, from a moral standpoint and stuff, it's not good to have, you know, ripped off stuff. A lot of the things that are copied though are parts that those brands do not produce anymore. So basically the brand used to make that part, say in the 90s. The manufacturers in China, obviously they don't have copyright laws. They still have the molds. The market is still there. It's worth it for them to still produce the parts, and they do. Most of the stuff now they've just removed the branding from. So it's the same part, same quality, same everything, it just doesn't have the branding on it. Now, so what we've done basically, a lot of the stuff that is made is generic. You know, where the bigger brands will just get generic parts, they just keep it to a higher quality standard and they put their own name on it. So that's basically what we've started doing as well. So you can see, like with these fuel pump brackets, for example, you'll see the FRA branding on them. This is usually would be a generic part that you could order online from Amazon or anything like that. But what we've done is we found a company that keeps a higher quality standard, and then we put our own name on the part and we bring them in. We'll maybe do a shop day sometime soon and have like an open day, and we invite all our customers and everybody down. You know, we have a look at the cars and discuss future plans, things like that. But yeah, that's all we've got, and that's Fury.
Okay, cool.